Hey, baseball fans, I'm Buster Olney, and on the latest Baseball Tonight podcast, a big and shocking strike for slugger Edwin Encarnacion, and we have a major landscape shift in the Hall of Fame voting.
And now, Jalen and Jacoby on ESPN Radio.
When I pop the trunk, head the dirt. Y'all pop the trunk, I pop the hood.
Now act stupid, I'll pop the trunk. Now give me your boom, boom.
He is Jalen Rose.
What up, Doe?
I'm David Jacoby. We are Jalen and Jacoby on ESPN Radio. What do we do, Jalen?
We give the people what they want.
There's a gentleman in the NBA by the name of DeMarcus Cousins. We, of course, know him as
Boogie.
Boogie has been in the news a lot recently. He's had a spat with a reporter from the Sacramento Bee. He's been fined by his team, but he went out against the Trailblazers and scored 55 points in a big win. We all know by now that he was ejected because he allegedly spit his mouthpiece at the Blazers bench. Then the rejection was rescinded, and he was brought back onto the court to finish with 55. After the game, here's what Boogie had to say.
It's ridiculous. It's obvious what's being done out here. It's on a nightly basis. I hope the world can see now what's really going on out here, because it's getting ridiculous. It's really ridiculous.
What he's talking about is being on a team who the last decade has probably had 10 coaches, missed on almost every lottery pick. Jason Thompson, Jimmer Verdette, Thomas Robinson, Ben McLemore, Nick Stauskas. Who did they draft this year? Is he on the team? Papagiannis? Is he on the team? And so he didn't get ejected for spitting his mouthpiece. A technicality is actually why he was able to return to the game. He was ejected for allegedly throwing his mouthpiece. Now, as somebody that wore a mouthpiece for a really long time, I do know the difference between spitting a mouthpiece and one falling out of your mouth. And usually when something falls out of your mouth, it goes straight to the ground. Versus when you spit something, it goes diagonal. But with that being said, since they got the original call wrong, due to that technicality, he was then allowed, which I'd never seen before, a player get ejected and actually return to the game.
One of my favorite quotes from Boogie after the game is he said he was in the locker room just looking for something to smash when they told him that he could come back in the game. He was just looking around the locker room like, what am I going to break into pieces? They're like, no, Boogie, you can come back and shoot that foul shot. He's like, oh, okay. I guess that's all right.
And the unique dynamic about this is truly what happens when you get drafted to a poor franchise. You can't even enjoy prosperity. We're not even leading with the fact that he had his career high 55 points, made 5 threes. And with the block shots, he's the first person to achieve that in the history of the league. But yet, when you're in a situation that struggled mightily as an organization, you as the best player can enjoy prosperity. And of course, a lot of this he's brought on himself. But when you can enjoy a big-time game and a really nice win, it tells you how it wears on you being in a bad franchise.
It absolutely does. And I'm going to ask you a straight-up question. Now, I know you back Boogie a lot because Boogie does back the Jalen Rose Leadership Academy. Do you think he spit the mouthpiece at the Blazers bench intentionally?
I'll go back to this again. I actually just answered that question.
I just want to hear you say yes or no.
There's a difference between when a mouthpiece falls out of your mouth, it goes directly to the ground. It's almost like when you're stripping the ball from somebody versus when something else, when you spit it out. And you can clearly tell that he spit it out his mouth. So the answer to the question is yes, but because of that technicality, he didn't get ejected.
Later on in that post-game interview we played a sample of, the microphone that Boogie was using was cut off. Do you think that was done intentionally by the production truck, or was that just a technical problem?
I think it was done for the greater good of both sides. He was on national television, which you don't know what he's going to say. He's on your airwaves. You don't want him to say it. So, in other words, to protect both sides' best interest, cut the mic. Somebody in the control room like they do me every now and then. Like, just cut the mic. Just cut the mic.
Also last night, we had a Cavs overtime victory against the Bucks. It was a little cherry on top for the Cavs was this LeBron James shot from about 33 feet in overtime, just steps into a long, deep three. What did the shot selection from LeBron in overtime tell you?
First and foremost, when LeBron James goes to Milwaukee, maybe he thinks nobody's watching because he's lights out. He shoots unconscious. He's pulling up from three, basically from Illinois. That's how far he was knocking down jump shots, and he has a certain level of confidence. Now, I enjoy watching the Bucks play. They're one of my favorite league pass teams. Watching Giannis and Jabari go at it when LeBron was big-time theater. But it truly marvels me how LeBron continues to reinvent himself and shows that he's the best player in the game, and nights like that continue to highlight it.
While he was certainly the best player in the game, the best plays in the game were provided by Malcolm Brogdon. He went up and dunked all over LeBron James and Kyrie Irving last night. He said all the right things in the postgame. He complimented the Cavs. He complimented the veterans. My question for you is, what does he say to his friends on the phone later that night?
He like, yo, I need that poster. I need somebody to print that out for me.
Yes.
I need that immediately, hanging at the crib. He sent that to everybody that he knows. Trust me, all of us have pictures that we like in our phones. People that are on Instagram, you go to people's Instagram pages, they have 15,000 pictures of themselves. So you couldn't tell me if they didn't have a picture of them dunking on LeBron James that they wouldn't bring it to life.
I just feel like he could get cut from the team today, and he'll still be like, you know what I did? I went to the NBA, and I dunked on LeBron James hard, right on his face. I loved it so much. However, some bad news for the Cavs. J.R. Smith has a broken thumb that will require some work. He's supposed to be out for an extended period of time into 2017. Could this provide the little glimpse of hope that the Raptors need to take the top spot in the East?
Not at all. They will need J.R.'s three-point shooting to win a championship. But in the short term, they have multiple players that can suffice. LeBron can be more of a ball handler. Kyrie can play that role, get more minutes from Shumpert, see what they got from a couple of their young players. But J.R. Smith is a notable person on that roster because he brings a distinct skill. A guy that can go to a game and literally knock down 5 to 10 threes on a nightly basis and possibly hit a handful in a quarter. So because he is that heat check type of player, they're going to need him long term. But in the short term, they'll be just fine. They'll still be the number one seed in the East.
We love power couples on Jalen and Jacoby. We love power couples. We're both in power couples on Jalen and Jacoby.
I love it.
What do you think of the rumors that Drake could be dating none other than Jennifer Lopez?
I'm so excited, and I just can't hide it. I like it so much that it made me want to think back to some of the people that Drake have dated that are notable individuals. Here's a guy that, being a player that used to perform in Toronto, I got a chance to see his movement when it was in the trunk like ours, okay? So for him to go from being that person that I saw performing at restaurants, okay, to now being the number one artist in his profession, one of the most known people worldwide, he's single, doesn't have kids, and therefore you can just go through your Rolodex, and if you don't know that person's number, you can pick up the phone to have somebody else pick up the phone and get on the phone with anybody you want. And potentially 95% of the time, if you ask them for a date, they'll probably say yes if they're not in a relationship or married. But then again, some of them may do it too.
Probably would.
So now all of a sudden, I saw J-Lo, and I'm a big J-Lo fan.
A big fan.
But the picture on the bed with the side boob, that was a thirst trap picture. And Drake probably saw it too. He's like, I need to hit her up. Stella trying to get her groove back. And so before you know it, they doing a song together. They at the restaurant together. I see you, Drizzy Drake. We got to get him on the show to talk about that.
You know what I love? I love that he rented out the entire restaurant. He's like, oh, where do you want to go to dinner tonight? Like, oh, we're going to some place called Delilah in West Hollywood. Cool. I'll just have them shut down the entire restaurant for the night so you and I can have a nice, quiet dinner.
That's the power play. We've seen him at tennis matches. We've seen him buy gifts for dogs. Here's a guy that when he's trying to woo an individual, he finds ways to do it. And what do you know? we see visuals of them at the restaurant smiling and having a great time. I like this, but I remember saying this about him and Rihanna. I said this about him and Serena. So we'll see how long or if this lasts.
Somewhere Doris Burke is like, Drake, I thought we had something. Jalen Rose, there's been big statue news in the National Basketball Association. For those of you that don't listen or watch this show very often, you may not know that Jalen Rose cares more about statues than anything else on the face of the planet. He is ESPN's senior statue specialist. I'll probably get in trouble for saying that. What's the new statue news, Mr. Rose?
Because I'm big into immortalization, and Shaquille O'Neal just became one of the greatest living, breathing American basketball players to ever grace the earth.
Yep.
He now joins a really short list of individuals that not only have one statue, but have two that designates from their college career and their professional career, joining the likes of the Logo, Jerry West, who has one at West Virginia, as well as with the Los Angeles Lakers, and Irvin Magic Johnson, the Hall of Fame mogul, has one at Michigan State, also at the Staples Center. Now the Big Diesel, Aristotle, Shaquille O'Neal, LSU, and also in front of the Staples Center. An amazing feat for an all-time great. This just makes me so enthusiastic.
I'm so happy
to see a person have two statues. I'm going to drink some Cristal for him.
Good for you, and I know you don't even like champagne. But here's the thing about this is you would think that there would be more players in the history of this sport that would have a statue for both college and the pros, but he now joins that very short list. One thing that's of interest with Shaquille O'Neal's statue is the statue design. If you look at his LSU statue, it is him, gigantic human being, dunking with two hands, lifting his knees on the rim, as we have seen him do hundreds of times in the NBA. His statue at the Staples Center is very similar. What do you think of the new statue design, ESPN senior statue analyst Jalen Rose?
I love it. It's a terrific idea to actually have it in the air and create that visual of a big man, powerful, yet light on his feet. And it's different. The architecture, the idea, the construction. I'm surprised that I was not in the room when this was concocted. An amazing idea. I can't wait to see it.
Anytime there is a brilliant idea, I'm surprised that you aren't in the room, if that is in fact the case. Here's what the artist said about the design. As Jalen mentioned, it does not have a base. It will be flying, it'll be hovering above the crowd as they enter the Staples Center, which I agree is a brilliant idea. Here's what the artist said about it. Quote, "You have to create a piece that will be totally free of gravity. So we didn't want to create a sculpture on a base. We wanted to eliminate the gravity and create the feeling of this massive man coming at you." I love this.
Now, here's the only problem for people that have spent time in California. They do have something out there called earthquakes. So I don't know how this dynamic is going to play into that, but usually earthquakes affect everything, including statues. So I'll be interested to see how that holds up if and when an earthquake takes place.
It is 1,200 pounds. I'm sure they will, consider that. And especially I know that all people that are involved in the sports statue world intensely watch this program. But one question I have for you is this, Mr. Rose. Does Shaquille O'Neal out there and Magic Johnson out there and Oscar De La Hoya and Chick Hearn and Jerry West, will they feel a certain way when they see that Shaquille O'Neal's statue just looms over them? It seems like he's got prominent placement above all those other statues outside Staples Center.
Of course they were. Of course they will. Magic probably going to send one of your nicely worded, sternly worded emails to somebody like, what about mine? Shaq's better than mine. Now imagine Kareem Skyhook if that was in the air. Now that would be something amazing. So yes, you have Michael Jordan going to be on the phone in Chicago trying to see if he could switch his up. Imagine if his was in the air. So now what they've just done, no question. So now what they've done is just taking it to a new level to where now statues are going to have remixes.
All that matters is this. how does Kobe Bryant react? We know he's going to get a statue. We know he has beef with Shaq. We look at this statue like, ooh, that's a cold statue. It's undeniably dope, this statue. What does he say? Who does he get on the phone with? What does he want?
He wants his to be doper than Shaq's. That's all he wants.
Yeah, he's like, whatever Shaq's is, mine needs to be 3 times as big. Whatever it is.
Because
you know what?
I
Put me
appreciate
above
the three
that one. Put me floating above that one.
Exactly. I appreciate the 3 championships we won, but I truly value the 2 I won without him a lot more.
We have some breaking news here. As we are very serious journalists, we take this radio show very seriously. In downtown Detroit, they will launch the very first ever. I've learned this from the Twitter feed of a great journalist, Rembert Brown. They will launch the very first ever combination IHOP Applebee's restaurant.
What?
Are you excited about this innovation in the field of food?
I'm not mad at it, but now it becomes a conversation about preference. And so IHOP is a long story brand, but I prefer Original House of Pancakes.
Oh.
Applebee's in the city of Detroit, I prefer Fishbones or Sweetwater Tavern or 1940 Chop House. If the restaurants I just named combined, you know where to find me 24 hours a day when I'm in the city. But I am excited, however, that our downtown continues to prosper. It continues to flourish. So many people continue to invest in it. Now my goal is to get that same level of investment on the west side, on the east side. And hopefully that now starts to happen in the future.
Jalen Rose, are you ready for me to alienate a large percentage of our audience?
South side and north side as well. What up, though?
Jalen Rose, are you ready for me to alienate a large portion of our audience?
Not if they from Detroit. You don't want those problems.
Pancakes are wildly overrated. Just wildly overrated. What? They don't taste like anything. They're bland. What? You have to put sugar water on them to make them even edible. I only want 1 pancake. I don't need a stack of 4 pancakes. They don't taste like anything. They're whack. I'm out on pancakes.
You're doing it wrong. And you're probably in the French toast or the waffle phase.
That's right.
Of
That's
enjoyment.
Right. I'm waffled out all day. Waffles all day.
Here's why I prefer Original House over IHOP. You just teed me up for this. It's because they make something that's called silver dollars. You could get 5. You could get 10. And they're small. I enjoy those a lot more.
Mr. Rose.
Yes, sir.
We had a very spirited conversation when the news was released that Mr. McCaffrey and Mr. Fournette were going to forego playing in their bowl games to sort of solidify their stock in the NFL draft. Fournette and McCaffrey are, some of the best running backs that we've seen in the history of college football. They're record-breaking running backs. They're clearly going to be first-round picks. But there was an interesting development in this trend. Shock Linwood of Baylor is also skipping his bowl game to focus on the draft. Shock Linwood's name is very cool, but it is not a household name. He is not projected to be a big, fancy top pick. What does this new wrinkle tell you about this trend?
It doesn't tell me anything because I acknowledge, first and foremost, for injured players, I understand not playing week 3 or in a bowl game. So we're going to toss that example out.
Okay.
However, for healthy players, if you can go, you should go. And rules aren't necessarily made for the elite. They made for everyone else who tries to fall in line and follow suit. So while Leonard Fournette may be a top 10 pick and McCaffrey is going to end up with the Patriots, basically, it seems like, in the first round, a do-it-all type of player. It just seems like that tends to happen that way, or the Giants for that matter. These 2 guys are the exception, not the rule. So because of that, when it does happen, you're going to have other players like this player that you just described saying, we're not in the top 25.
Shock Linwood.
Bowl doesn't mean much to me either. So here's what's going to happen next. You ready for this?
I'm ready.
You remember we talked about should Jadeveon Clowney play or should he enter the draft? This same thing was said about Leonard Fournette. So what's going to take place now with players? They're just going to say, I might as well not play this season. Or after week 5, I'm going to get ready for the draft too. And trust me, fans and media, you can always improve your stock. Leonard Fournette ain't going number 1. Christian McCaffrey ain't the top 3 rated back in the league. He's rated 4th. So you can always improve your stock. You can always change history in sports for a play, for a quarter, for a game. That's the beauty of sports. And lastly, you're not the only person responsible for making you a first-round pick. Have you ever paid attention to the fact you have teammates that block for you, coaches that call plays, that help make you look good? You also owe it to those guys to go out and perform if you're healthy. So I never liked it. I don't like it, and it's going to continue to start a trend that I'm not a fan of.
It's interesting you talk about how Leonard Fournette owes things to people, because he went on Instagram and he posted a picture of himself and his adorable daughter Lyric with a simple caption, quote, "Only person I owe something to." It's a pretty unassailable defense of his position. What would you say sort of to his response to people like you saying he should play?
Here's what we're allowing to happen. But as a parent myself, in theory, what he's saying is accurate.
Yes.
But it's not only accurate. Here's why. She's not the only person you owe, sir. You do owe your teammates.
Less so.
You do owe those that put you in a position, huh?
Way less so. Like, you say the word owe. He doesn't owe his teammates anything. I mean, we've had this conversation, but, like, I don't understand why he owes his teammates that he has to play in a meaningless bowl game.
There's no better way I could say this. It's distinct that he has a daughter, so therefore his future directly is going to impact her well-being. And he wants to make sure that he puts her and himself in the best position possible to maximize that. Only a fool wouldn't understand that. But also, this is where I say it becomes a selfish act. Because, again, that is not the only person you owe. This is a team sport. This isn't tennis. This isn't boxing. This isn't golf. The people next to you help make you great. And I know what happens in sports. We want to act like Michael Jordan won all 6 championships by himself. But he actually had Phil Jackson, Scottie Pippen there each time he won the championship. Okay? We want to act like the best player. LeBron James, oh, he won it by himself. Well, Kyrie Irving made the big shot on the right wing. And so we elevate the best player because we need a storyline and we need a hero. But he owes more than just himself and his daughter. You also owe the people that help put you in that situation. That's called never forgetting where you came from.
Simple question. Should Tupac Shakur be inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame?
Here's something that DJ Clark Kent made me think about.
Oh, okay. Good name drop.
Brooklyn's own. While Tupac was an amazing artist, he didn't necessarily embody rock music.
No.
What has happened with the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame as music genres start to blur is that since rap music doesn't have a Hall of Fame, it's their way to honor musicians of that art. So I understood Run DMC because they had multiple rock records. Here's a name that he made me think about that should actually be in before Tupac Shakur. You ready for this?
Yes, I am.
LL Cool J.
That makes perfect sense. Also from the world of hip-hop, NWA is in there, Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five, the Beastie Boys, and Public Enemy. To me, it just doesn't pass the smell test. It's kind of like Michael Jordan going to the Football Hall of Fame. It's just like Tupac Shakur was not a rock and roll musician, so like the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame should be for musicians that practiced rock and roll. But I love Tupac. You know what I mean? They're going to have a great time celebrating him. It's going to be a nice little thing for the Hall of Fame. It just doesn't really make sense to me personally. Today, like every Wednesday, we celebrate the more intelligent, reasonable, rational, harder working, and just straight up more valuable, better gender, the females. We open up our voicemails to our female listeners. Let's listen to our first voicemail.
Hi, Jalen and Jacoby. This is Mana from Phoenix. I haven't listened to your show in a long time, unfortunately. I had been listening to it on the regular with my boo, Rick, but he has moved to St. Louis recently, so shout out to St. Louis. And I am wondering if you guys can tell me what are my Phoenix Suns going to do to build around Devin Booker? Looking forward to your answer. Thank you. Merry Christmas.
First of all, Rick, you got to move back to Phoenix. You know,
Yes.
when you got a good thing, I don't know what you're following, whether you're following a job or your family or whatever, you got to move back to Phoenix, you know, because when you got a lady that listens to Jalen and Jacoby, like you got to stay with her. That's a keeper. Jalen,
I agree.
I'll allow you to address the Suns.
So they did a really good job, obviously, acquiring Devin Booker in the draft, who I think has all-star potential. Marquise Chris in the draft, who also is a terrific young talent.
Yep, they got
I
Alex
like them
Len
having
before that.
The veteran anchor in Tyson Chandler, who's still getting you rebounds, effort, and rim protection. Now for that team, it's important to see once Booker becomes that all-star level player, you have to figure out what you're going to do at the power forward spot. You drafted Alex Len. You got to see how good he really is, especially since you took him so high in the draft. And also, they've done a really good job of drafting and acquiring players at the guard position, including Isaiah Thomas, who they let go. Now they have to figure out, is it Teague? Is it Bledsoe that they want to continue to be on the roster, or they need to flip one of those players to get the piece that I just described?
Let's listen to our next female caller.
Rick, you need to get back.
Hi, Jalen. Hi, Jacoby. This is Marissa calling you from Oakland, California. Long-time listener, also long-time caller, hoping to get a call answered. I'm wondering what the best comeback story you guys think is. An athlete who was great, went down, and came back again. My favorite is Andre Agassi, for example. Hope you guys will answer my call, and I love what you do. Thanks. Bye.
Thank you for the call, Marissa from Oakland.
Bay Area, we appreciate the support. Thank you for your call. Mine probably dates a lot of our audience.
Wait. Someone that dates a lot of our audience.
My example is probably going to be dated based on our audience.
Okay.
But the biggest redemption story in sports is not even close. It's not even remotely close. Okay. It's what I saw a gentleman who died recently, the late, great Muhammad Ali, endured and overcame. Here's a gentleman that, through name change, through religion change, being ostracized by his country, being stripped of his heavyweight championship belt, for him to regain that championship belt, continue to endure such great glory, acquire Parkinson's disease in the early 80s, fight and endure that so very long, to the point where our country then transformed and actually appreciated his greatness to the point where the Olympics were in Atlanta, and none other than the great Muhammad Ali actually was carrying the torch for the United States of America.
That is a brilliant answer that I cannot top, so we'll move on to our next voicemail.
Hi, this is Maria calling from Alaska. I'm wondering how long you guys think it will take the baby Lakers to win a championship. Love the show. Bye.
Thank you so much for the call, Maria. Especially you're in Alaska. Big shout out to Alaska during the wintertime. Can't be easy. So here's the thing.
Did you hear what Glenn Rice did when Michigan went and played in Alaska? Oh, that's another subject for another day.
I did not hear that. So here's my thing. These baby Lakers will not win a championship. Allow me to explain why. This current construction, their sort of core four guys that they have, they are not going to have the opportunity to grow together because of contract contract structuring, that this team will not win a championship. You will see 2 of these 4 win a championship in the next 10 years maybe, but you will not see sort of like this core of Luke plus the 4 guys that they have starting win a championship for the Lakers.
I agree with you. And you're talking about Clarkson, Russell, as well as Randall and Nance.
Yep, Ingram.
The reason, and I'll take a different approach to yours, is because you have to still see who's going to be the all-star caliber player from that group, which is yet to be designated. You've seen flashes from each of those players, but you haven't necessarily seen the kind of guy like Porzingis, for example, in New York that has the potential to be a multi-time all-star, or Giannis Antetokounmpo in Milwaukee. I see that from those players. I haven't seen that from one of those group of Lakers just yet.
It's a really
so
good
I agree
point.
with your assessment.
It's a really good point, Mr. Rose. Let's listen to the next caller.
Jalen, Jacoby, Amanda Valdez, New York, calling you guys. This is kind of a question for Jalen. Top 5 worst hairstyles in the NBA right now.
Thank you for the call. Stand Up NYC. Top 5 worst hairstyles.
I'll help you with that. We got to put Jeremy Lin at number 1, right? Like he's got to be number 1. He could be number 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5.
You know what Jeremy Lin is like? Hey, look at me. Look at me. I'm back in New York. I know Lin Sanity is past. Look at me. Look at me. Whether it's the pants, whether it's the gear, whether it's the hair, look at me. That's one.
I'm putting my man Kelly Olynyk on there. Because here's one thing.
Nice.
Here's one thing about being a white dude that plays basketball. You don't want the hair flopping around. You know, you don't want the floppy poppy hair. And you also don't want to have to wear a headband or put it back in a ponytail. Like, that's why most of the white dudes you see playing basketball have a very short cropped cut. Because it just gets too messy and sweaty and floppy.
And also, he looks like a member of the Doobie Brothers.
A little bit.
I'll take the third one to Orlando. Their point guard, Elfrid Payton.
Oh, yes.
Hey,
Oh, yes.
The Weeknd cut his off. You should follow suit.
The Weeknd saw Elfrid Payton's and was like, I gotta cut mine off. His haircut's so bad, he's changing other people's haircuts with it. Like, the Weeknd was like, wait, is that what I look like? Oh, no, this has got to come off. This absolutely has to come off. I'm going to go next, and we're unprepared for this, so we're coming off the top. I'm going to go with Marcus Smart. It's just the dyeing. The dyeing, like, I feel like the faux hawk itself is sort of passe. That's kind of like 2 or 3 years ago. But there's something about the dyeing process. I don't know how to dye your hair. I've never done it. But I just imagine Marcus Smart, like, at a salon, thumbing through Teen Vogue while his hair is in, like, tinfoil and he's changing its color. It just doesn't feel right. Who do we got to finish this off?
Number 5, Doc Rivers.
Oh, yes. Yes.
I don't understand what you're doing, Coach.
I don't know.
It's okay to go bald. You had your playing career. You've been in the media. You're a championship level coach. We know that we can Google your age. You don't have to have a Chris hairline. I don't know what's going on up there.
I don't know exactly what it is. Like, you look at, like, Manu Ginobili. It's like, oh, okay, that's male pattern baldness. I understand that. But his looks like you bought a Chia Pet 2 days ago, and it's just starting to sprout, but it never really grows out. Like, that's what it looks like to me. I'm just more confused and curious about it. Like, if we had him in the studio, I wouldn't want to talk about basketball. I would just want to have an honest and frank conversation about his hair and where he's going with it moving forward. Thank you so much for the call, Amanda. I'm really proud of us, Jalen, for coming up with 5 off the top of our heads. Let's listen to the next
That was very
caller.
nice. We got to bring that one to life.
Let's listen to the next voicemail.
Hey, Jalen Jacoby. What up, though? This is Andrew
What up, though?
from Houston, Texas. I've been a fan since the beginning. For Women's Wednesdays, we want to hear from Joey and from Molly. How about it?
I told you, Joey will happily come on this program. She just has to get paid. You know? Like, she just has to get paid. Like, she'll do it. She'll be here every single day. You just got to sign her to a deal. You know, this is the Jacoby household. We got a lot of kids. Like, we you know, you don't just do things for free. She's not volunteering her time.
I agree with you. And Molly works in the media, so it won't be as difficult, but we got to get Joey paid. I agree with you.
Let's do
and
that.
What's the actress that she resembles?
Ruth. Her last name is Negga. I don't like to say it.
Yeah, you might watch yourself, young fella. Hey, here's the thing. Whatever her day rate is, we got to get Joey that to come on the program.
Exactly. Thank you so much to all of our callers. We love Woman Crush Wednesday here on Jalen and Jacoby. Thank you so much for listening on ESPN Radio, for watching on ESPN2 and ESPN News, and subscribing to the Jalen and Jacoby podcast.
Hey, football fans, this is Mel Kiper Jr. 'Tis the season for the first mock draft of the year. On the latest First Draft podcast, Todd McShay, Chris Sproul, and I run through Todd's mock version 1.0. Find out what we see for your favorite teams.
The Cavaliers face the Warriors in a finals rematch. Then in San Antonio, it's the Spurs and Bulls. Coverage begins Christmas Day at 1:30 Eastern on ABC, ESPN Radio, and the ESPN app. Presented by TISO.